Sport inculcates a lot of discipline. Never force feed, because that's when you're developing a bad relationship with food. They have no idea what sugar is. Why are you introducing them to sugar? We watch our parents and learn a lot, and that's as simple as it can get. Everything you do will translate to a large extent onto your kids. So one has to be mindful. I feel like your surrounding, no matter where you are in life, matters a lot.
From a banker to a dance fitness instructor, we all know her for making everyone dance their hearts out like nobody's watching, and someone who has helped people believe that working out is nothing less than a party. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Shwetambari Shetty, who's going to be talking to us about building a fitness culture as a family. So welcome, Shwetambari ma'am, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about what stands out for you about your personal health and wellness story over the years?
Sakshi, thanks so much for just connecting with me and having me over to talk to your audience. Right? It's always amazing to talk on absolutely any platform and reach out to as many people and women as we can. I mean, I always specify women because I feel like women need to really take care of their health, or they need the attention more than anybody else, right? But yeah, so you're kind of curious to know about my journey as such with fitness and health as such, or uh, my journey overall, because that's a long one.
Fitness, I mean, something that really stands
Yeah,
out to you, like over the years, in terms of your
yeah,
struggles, your challenges that you faced also.
yeah. I think the struggle honestly isn't so much uh, in the industry, or whether it is just incorporating it in your own life, right? When I started, which is over a decade ago, there were obviously lesser number of women in the space, in the industry, but I think that kind of gives you a little bit of an edge and a niche as well. Then you know that you will be someone who will be looked at by a lot of different gyms and studios and people. So I think I used that to my advantage. From a family point of view, I think there wasn't great amount of support, because coming from a middle class family where the expectations are very different. Of course, by then I was married, so it was okay. But then my parents, my extended family, not very excited about this change in career or move that I decided, because I had a great job going on at the bank, right? So there, the support I can say was minimal. Having said that, today it's very different because everyone appreciates and respects what I do. Uh, but I think the most important was for my husband to be very aligned, and his support was always there, because he's someone who's also he's very big on fitness and like good health and movement every day and things like that. So it wasn't very hard as such to me to kind of set foot in the industry, completely take away the that monthly comfortable salary that comes in at a corporate job, and be okay with starting from scratch or starting from nothing. But yeah, when you have a good support system and you take some calculated risk, any journey you set foot on, right, fitness or anything, just becomes easy. But having said that, I think the most important, um, I don't know, I mean, I've said this recently at another interview or podcast as well. Fitness, I think, has changed me from being a very, um, what's the word to use? I wouldn't want to say shy, but someone who was really afraid and not so confident personality, to suddenly getting this extreme amount of confidence to be able to, speak in public. It could be like thousands of people. It could be in a meeting room with just IIMs and IITians meeting just to be congratulate. Uh, I think especially weightlifting, right? Especially weightlifting. That for me is honestly the highlight. I think most women from middle class families have this struggle, especially because if you've been raised in a certain kind of atmosphere, a certain city, what you're exposed to, it is not easy. But then when you finally get the exposure, you're kind of afraid of so many things, what people are going to think about you. More than anything else, I must add this point as well. For the longest time, I used to not be comfortable with the fact that I was short, right? I'm not like super short, but I'm like 5'2", or maybe an average Indian woman height. But then for the longest time, I only wore heels because I was afraid of how people would perceive me, right? And I think that changed ever since I've incorporated, exercise and fitness so consistently and mindfully, because I now realize that I'm such a strong person, inside out, that I don't need anyone's validation for anything at all, right? I don't have to worry if people think I'm short or tall, or you know what I mean? Like, and especially in India, you have people judging you and commenting on everything about you all the time. So today it doesn't matter. And that's something that I truly want to teach my daughter as well. Like, I feel like bringing in sports early on in life, and, bringing in fitness, and these things keep you so disciplined, and you I don't know, it just feels like it just balances out your life. It doesn't necessarily have to happen with everyone, but for me, that's been the biggest change. That the person I am today, I didn't imagine to be this person maybe 15 years ago. I imagined a very, very different woman.
Absolutely, and I have to say, energy is contagious. Like watching just your
Yes.
stories, your videos, everything. Like it gives me personally so much power and energy. Watching you start your morning with such a bang. So
Yeah.
that's really good to see. And also, I'm sure that a lot of women here listening to this can resonate with how powerful weightlifting, strength training can make you
Yeah.
feel in life outside the gym when
Yes.
you carry yourself, the way you move, and the way you hold space or take up space in a room, right? So I'm sure that a lot of women can resonate with this, and that's a very powerful message to keep continuing this journey. So thank you for sharing this story with us. And moving on to our topic for today, which is building a fitness culture as a family, right? I mean, what we have observed is something that me and my mom also talk about very, constantly, that there are not many families, or at least for my generation, not every person has grown up seeing their parents,
Yeah.
consciously work on their fitness and their health. It was usually if a parent got diagnosed with diabetes, which is one of the major concerns today, right? So it's diabetes
Yeah.
or heart health, anything, and only then when the doctor says that now you have to go for a walk, that's when we see our parents doing it. And usually it's not that love for movement that we also see, right? It's a have to do sort of a thing because I have been prescribed this. So, this
Yeah.
is very important today. And I'm sure that there are also many parents like you and some people that I've also already interviewed, that they share their beautiful journeys about what they are really consciously building with their family for their children. Because one of the major things is that children will model you the way they see you, right? The way that you do things yourself. That's one of the major things. So, I mean, I'm sure that the parents who are already
Yeah.
working out and into health and wellness, their kids are already
True.
seeing and mirroring it at some level. But what are some things
True.
that you are consciously doing, specifically since you conceived? And did you think that there was a plan in your mind that you would really, lay this down for your daughter and sort of build this
Yeah.
environment for?
Yeah. Sakshi, a great question, right? Like, I think no, not many people talk about particularly this, how we try to incorporate certain values and etc. in the family, and how do we do it through fitness and health. I think, and this is again talking out of my own experience. Each one can have their own. We watch our parents and learn a lot, and that's as simple as it can get, right? Some habits stay, some habits change. uh, we then meet a lot of people along the way in our journey, school and college, and we sometimes take on a little bit of their habits or their characteristics and stuff like that. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. And I can tell you, I've had my share of good and bad. So one is family and how you start, but the other, which we can talk about later maybe, is also your peers, the people that you surround yourself with apart from your family. Because sometimes families may not have the most positive influence on you, and there are people like that. But the other people they surround themselves outside with can be really, really uh, of positive influence, right? But let me start with my own family, right? I think something that I took away from my mom and dad is that movement is important, not necessarily exercise, because in my mom and dad's days, it wasn't about exercise, it was about doing your household chores, not sitting for more than 30 minutes, constantly moving. Uh, and I think even till date, even if I go to something my mom does, when I go to someone's home, like if I'm invited for lunch or dinner or whatever, right? Um, I may be the guest in that house, but I still take the liberty of like setting up the table or clearing the table or, moving around, helping around and stuff. And this I've noticed my mom do all the time. She doesn't think twice because she's a guest or a host or whatever. Certain things have to be done. And if you want to help this other person in the kitchen with their permission, you go ahead and do it. And right there, there is movement, right? And she doesn't do it with the intention of movement. She does it with the intention of being kind and helping. And today, when I do it, like I'm like, this is exactly what my mom used to do, and I've totally taken it from there. And with exercise, I think, like you said, a lot of the times our families pick up some sort of exercise because the doctors have said you're diabetic, and that's what happened to my father. Very young age, he was diagnosed with diabetes. I think at 34 or 35. That's because of his sedentary lifestyle. So he's from a super active sports personality to getting a job and becoming very sedentary. And in my dad's days, getting a good job and etc. was very, very important. He's what, 75 now. So um, then when diabetes happened, he started walking every morning. He started doing yoga. And I was, I think, about 5 or 6 at that time. And right at that age, I started waking up and doing yoga with him. I would start going for jogging with him. I don't know if my father would have done all of this if he wasn't diagnosed with diabetes, honestly. But given the fact that he was always in the sports space, I know he would have pushed us into it, not as a career, but at least at a certain level. So I got introduced to movement and, especially yoga and basic sports and stuff like that at a very young age. I pursued it very aggressively in school. Academically, not the best. I wasn't the best, and today, so long story short, right, it tremendously helped me. Just that I didn't turn out, if I keep telling my father that I wish you had pursued sports with me seriously, because maybe I would have been able to bring a medal for the country on at some level, because now I know how much I love it, and I'm fairly good at what I do. I don't do all sports, but whatever I do, I'm decent. And I know if at a much younger age, I would have done better. At 43, there's only so much I can do, but at a younger age, I would have done much better. Uh, anyway, it is what it is. But today, I've been fortunate to marry somebody who's equally interested in health and fitness. Health, of course, everybody is, to set what choices you make to be, continue to be healthy. But he enjoys, exercise and sports and stuff like that. And obviously, we didn't hit it off on sports or exercise. We hit it off over beers. But we both have the same love for fitness. And I think so, without making much effort, right, it's actually translating quite positively into our child, right? Because she sees us. She knows that waking up in the morning and going to the gym is something my mother does every day. So when I wake up, I can't expect her to be by my side because my mom is at the gym and gym is very important. So she's going to be 3 soon, and she already talks the language of Mama, did you go to the gym today? Papa, did you go to the gym today? Or she tells us on a certain day that go to the gym. You know what I mean? Like she associates gym as a normal daily chore to do. Now the goal is to start taking her with us at least once or twice a week, so that she understands exactly the kind of stuff that happens there. Although I show her all my videos every day, and I tell her this is what Mama did today at the gym and stuff like that. And I see her pretty much replicating the same at home, just for fun, but she does it. So I don't think the effort needs to be extremely high. It's what you do will translate, right? I eat a certain type of food. So she sees me eat, she watches me eat, and she wants to eat the same kind of food. And more than anything else, it's for me, I treat food, although I love food and I eat literally everything. And I think I work out so hard to be able to eat whatever I want. I've tried to create really good eating habits and a relationship with food for my daughter from a very young age, ever since she started solids. And I thought it was extremely important to keep her away from a lot of stuff which is absolutely unnecessary, like your processed food, right? Like right from pizzas to chocolates to biscuits to these things. And I can very, very confidently say that even at the age 3, we associate uh, eating cake with a celebration or a birthday. We don't expect or want it every other day. So when we're saying, hey, it's this one's birthday, then she's like, oh, it's birthday, so that means I get cake, you know?
Right.
And and also, Vivek and I don't watch too much TV. Of course, we spend a lot of time on laptop and phone. That's different, but we don't get the time to watch TV. So she now associates that when we watch TV, which is pretty much only on Saturday and Sunday or one of the days when we get the time, she gets to watch something on the iPad,
Right.
right? So the screen time is very, very minimal because of this. Like I know, I know of kids who get a lot of screen time, and I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong, right? Every parent plans it the way it works for them, and it's okay. But everything you do will translate to a large extent onto your kids. So one has to be mindful the way we talk, the tone we use, everything, right? Absolutely everything. And I think the first 5 years is going to be the most sensitive. So, and I feel like it's also the reverse, something that nobody talks about. My parents see how active we all are, right? So, despite not being in the best of health today, uh, my mom and dad, of course, is a habit because he's been doing it since 35. Mom, because of Parkinson's, if you give her a choice, she would just sit back and not do anything or grieve over the fact that she has Parkinson's. But because, she sees us so active and she knows how important exercise is even for Parkinson's, we've sent her, like equipment's needed and stuff. It's working the other way as well. So it's not just about your kids, but a lot of the things that you do can positively impact your parents as well, especially if you live with elderly parents, right? Or they're somewhere around and they kind of need that positive influence. So, yeah. And last but not least, Sakshi, I feel like your surrounding, no matter where you are in life, matters a lot. So I would always say choose your surrounding very wisely. I've had my phase in college, where I did excessive drinking, all of that, right? Uh, I'm not saying I regret any of those moments. Uh, I did have my share of fun. Yeah, I'm not saying that is fun, but I'm saying that everyone has a different terminology of fun. Maybe if I was introduced to sports, like serious sports early on in life, that would have been my fun. I don't know. Uh, but I got out of it, and I think the reason I got out of that phase of college was because I got quite seriously into fitness and health and stuff like that. So it's had a positive influence in every way in my life. The reason I feel like I could have a baby at 40 is because of the fact that my, fitness and health was in decent shape. I kept a track of how my body was reacting, how my mind was reacting. And yeah, so your peers, your surroundings, your relationship with people at work, everything matters in some way or the other. And if you feel like there's no positive influence from a person that you're connected to at any phase of your life, honestly, it's not worth chasing that relationship at all. And no matter what that relationship is, it could be a spouse, it could be the boyfriend or the girlfriend, it could be the best friend who's just become a different person and you don't want to be her best friend anymore because you don't kind of resonate or you don't connect anymore. It's okay to not be the best friend anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah. So who you want to be and how you want to be is really one is you, one is what you take on from your parents and your family, and the second is what you take on from the people you're surrounded.
Absolutely, that was really well said, especially the point where you mentioned about it happening the other way around, wherein your parents
Hmm.
also might start getting involved with you with this. And there's nothing better to bond with your family than movement, right? I mean, you are literally doing a workout together, you're moving together. Even if it's not the gym, you're going on treks together, going for swims. It can be anything,
Yeah.
right? So that plays a
Walks,
major role.
walks.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I've seen that happen in my family as well, like because they would see the love for movement happening with one person, and it is contagious. It will happen when you do it together. So that is a major difference. It makes a major difference as a family together for your bond as well. So it's a
True.
big thing. And that's true that you said that it's really not that tough. I mean, today people find it very tough to sort of instill this health and well-being, these values with their children, right? But the most easiest way is for you to yourself do it, and for you to
Correct.
genuinely love it. Because of course today it's great that so many mothers are taking action, and they're taking making it a point to sort of include this in their routine. But
Yeah.
usually it's like it looks like a chore. Like they would come, even in my gym they would come with their kids, right? And either they're on the phone or they're like stressed with the calls of work, and then they have to go home
Yeah.
and cook, and there's just so much stress, they have to do it. And the kids are seeing that, right? Like if you are enjoying it or if you're not enjoying it, that is also a major thing happening. And one thing about kids nutrition, it's something that I've observed, and we talk about it in a
Mhm.
lot of episodes. It's very interesting that our exposure today to junk food is so much, because the funny thing is my mom did not go to her first McDonald's until like she
Mm.
was 35 or 40, right? I
Yeah.
didn't go to my first McDonald's till I was in my like ninth standard. Today, where I
Yeah.
live, in my building, there's a McDonald's downstairs, and on every Saturday, I would see like 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids going with their families
Yeah.
after school, and that's okay at some point. I mean, I'm sure that it might give them a time to bond and all, but it's
Yeah.
crazy like how it has shifted and how early on kids are being exposed to this, right? And I'm sure that even Yona, when she will grow up, she will have friends, she will have birthday parties at McDonald's or something like
Yeah.
that. And what is it
Yeah.
that what are the values that you think you want her to understand, and sort of not restrict in a way that don't do this, don't do that? That's usually what
Yeah.
happens, right? But what do you want her to understand when she grows up and makes her own decisions about these things?
Yeah. I, Sakshi, for all of us, also, everything done in like limitation is fantastic, right? Um, Anything overdone is a big problem. For example, if I'm going to feel the need to eat, like something sugary every single day, then there is a problem. But if it's something that I understand, I do it during occasions or celebrations. Eat the burger. Eat it when you're invited for a birthday, which does not happen every day. It doesn't probably even happen once a month, right? Uh, but what I want her, and I keep telling this to myself and my husband as well, that Monday to Friday, right, or at least as long as we can, we need to ensure we eat as healthy, as clean as possible. Then you have that every week you have some occasion or something. Either there's a birthday party, or there is some other function, or there is a wedding, or there's always something that's happening. So you're going to end up eating wrong twice or thrice a week, worst case, right? But
True.
if all the other meals can be really healthy, you're compensating beautifully, right? See, you are allowed to eat X amount of sugar every day. The thing is, where are the sugar sources coming from, right? Like then you make the option. Do you want to eat just like 2 cakes and finish that sugar quota of the day, or you want to eat 4 different types of fruits and get the sugar, right? Where is the nutrition coming from? So I think as long as I'm able to teach her the difference between nutrition and only satisfying your taste buds, I'll be very happy, because then she will know how to mindfully make those choices. Because at 3 today, she's making those choices, right? She eats vegetables, fruits, and everything that a human being is supposed to eat uh, for their gut, for their energy, for all of that. I think that's the most important thing. And apart from that, I feel like every parent should introduce a sport to their child. I'm not saying a sport, I'm saying you introduce them to like 4 different sports that is accessible to them. They can choose what they love. And they could take as long as like be 8 years or 10 years before they can choose what they love. You don't expect them to choose something they love at 5. Or it could be even at 13 or 15 that they suddenly realize that, you know what, I think this is not the sport that I want to be doing. This is what I want to be doing. So sport inculcates a lot of discipline, because when you're playing a sport, you have to wake up a certain time, you have to do everything in a certain order. It's the discipline that sport brings in, nothing else can bring in.
True.
So whether they see, it's not like you, because your child is doing a sport means that it has to translate into, you becoming a sports personality when you grow up, right? It's just a healthy way of moving at a very young age. At a young age, when I see like really smaller kids at like 8 years and 9 years going to the gym, I'm not saying it's wrong. Great. I mean, if you're going and doing some movement in the gym, but you should be playing a sport. You don't necessarily have to come to the gym.
Right.
That's a movement you need when you're young. And as you get older and you figure out which sport you want to do more regularly, then you get stronger to play that sport by doing certain other aspects of, strength training, endurance training, etc. So this is something that I would request, everyone who's listening to this, if there are a lot of parents who are listening to us, then figure a sport. And dance is also a sport, by the way. So if you
Absolutely.
feel like, oh no, my child only likes dancing and I have to find a sport, no, dancing is phenomenal, right? If your child loves dancing, stick to dancing. You don't need to worry about any other sport. It'll take a few years to figure what the interest is. Keep trying until then and find that interest, which is exactly what we're going to do with our daughter. And yeah, build a very, very healthy, strong relationship with food. Uh, don't something I remember my mom and I argue about this. Feeding, force feeding, right? Even today, our parents treat us like babies, and when we're sitting together to eat, it's a natural tendency for your parents to overserve you and keep reminding you that, oh, you can eat a little more of this, a little more of that. I think we are probably mature enough to understand what portions we need, but with kids, again, never force feed, because that's when you're developing a bad relationship with food, right? You let them stop when they want to stop, give them food when they're hungry. That's the rule in my house. Um, that if she doesn't want to eat breakfast, some days, like, yeah, go without breakfast. When you're hungry, you're going to come and say, Mama, I'm hungry, and you want to eat. So I treat food as medicine. So when I eat wrong, there are most times I do feel guilty for eating wrong, but I still eat it. Uh, but I definitely, when I look at my plate, I look at the nutrition it's contributing, to my body. So if I can teach the same thing to my daughter, saying that nutritious food is going to contribute like a medicine, and not so nutritious food is going to be the other side of medicine. So you can choose which one you want.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure that our young parents out here listening to this are getting great insight. And the thing that you mentioned about force feeding, it's such a major thing because,
Hmm.
in Indian families, especially if there are like grandparents in the family, right? Like when the kids are growing, because
Yes.
it's the growing age, we constantly keep feeding, and even when they're not hungry or leaving your house without eating is so abnormal and
Yeah.
so alien. Like you have to
Yes.
eat something and go even when you're not hungry. And at times when the food is not palatable, we end up making it sweeter with some or the other way, and that's how
Mm.
have the kids eat it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
that time. But then we are sort of like programming them to like the food when it's sweet and not when how it is served.
yeah.
So that's a major thing. I mean, especially the force feeding part, because even now today in my 20s, my mom would never let me go out of my house without eating. So that's a big thing, right? So that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything, I think, that's a problem, right? The babies, especially when you start solids, right, after the milk phase, they don't know what food tastes like. Imagine starting their taste with sugar, like adding sugar into their ragi porridge, adding sugar into their like fruit puree or whatever it is that you're adding sugar into, right? They have no idea what sugar is. Why are you introducing them to sugar? Like, what is the need, right? And this, I mean, I've seen my own family members do it. Like, they still feed their child breakfast, idli, curd, and sugar.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's, I mean, I don't even know how to call this out, right? But it is the worst thing you're doing for your child. The worst thing. It's the worst relationship you're building with food, because your child's association with food is that it is always going to be tasty. Everything is not always going to be tasty. You have the right to say no to some foods and yes to some foods, but if you're going to expect it to be tasty with everything, you're fully wrong, right? You're then only satiating your taste buds and not your mind and body as such. So you're absolutely right in pointing that out. That yeah, we've only given her bland food, my daughter, and she still eats bland food. Uh, and it's not like she's not eaten. Like I said, she's eating her cakes and chocolates, but I've not seen her overdo it or ask for more because it's too much for her. If I
Right.
start giving it to her every day, her brain will start craving for more.
True.
But because I give it to her once in a while, she eats half of it and then she's like, oh, I don't think I can eat more. So it's all in the kind of relationship you build with food, what you give them more and what you give them less. That's,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. And I have two more things to discuss. So, one is
Sure.
that I've seen you, like in your stories, in your videos with your daughters, something really beautiful about your relationship with your daughter is how you make it a point to listen to her, right? So, it's not always
Mm.
like you telling her what to do, what not to do, or, making it restricted in any way. And you make it a point to listen to her. And that's just from a little 15-second story that I get. I'm sure that you're doing a lot more in your real life, right? But in terms of sports and school, so what happens is that schools today do have a lot of exposure with sports, or they have a PE period
Mm.
weekly, or they have this physical education aspect involved now,
Mm.
but it
Yeah.
sort of kills the love for movement in some or the other way when you're testing it out. Like, there's an annual test happening every year, and then there are these 5 things that you have to master. At least that's how it was in my school, right? So that's what sort of killed the love for movement in sports for me. It was like a
Mm.
big no,
Mm.
because you have to do like, okay, sit-ups, push-ups, run, there's a relay, long jump, that's it. And you're done on a test, you do it in front of everybody. And in terms of sports also, it's very competitive, right? But
Yeah.
how would you sort of help build this healthy relationship with sports as well? Because she might start out like loving it, but when it's too much at some age, like even I have
Mm.
observed this with my cousins also, it becomes too much, and then they just have to do it because it is a part of the
Correct.
schedule, and not something that they might even pursue it if they really loved it, right? But it sort of
Yeah.
restricts them in some or the other way, because now it's a have to
Yeah.
sort of part. So how would
Yeah.
you
No,
like
that's
go?
that's that's a good point also, Sakshi, because I think I've noticed how some kids have lost interest in a certain sport that they're actually very good at because they've overdone it and they were made to overdo it, right? They just one fine day just dropped everything and they said, you know what, I'm not going to play one more day of that game. And yeah, I think parents will have to be prepared for that, which is why I'm saying that, and this is not out of experience, this is out of what I've seen and what I've read, that it takes years to figure out what your child wants to do and is good at it, both together. Because um, they may like something at 4, they may like something else at 7, they may like something else at 10, and we need to give them that many years. And we need to give them different type of activities and sports for that many years. And I'm not saying give them like 10 different activities, but if there are 3 different things that they enjoy doing, then try to give them those 3 different things in certain limitations through the week, right? And as they grow, they will slowly remove what they don't like. But if you do one thing and you keep overdoing it at a young age, that's when they become highly bored and it gets monotonous.
Right.
Recently, like I was talking to a friend of mine, their daughter is, I think, about 12 or 13 now. And now is where she has very abruptly figured the love for swimming and she's going all in, right? And at 12 and 13, you're a little little more mature to kind of say, you know what, I really love this. Right? Teenage with sports, I think at that age you're a little more comfortable saying that this is what I love. So don't force a single sport, because just because you've seen them play one sport for a month and they keep talking about it does not necessarily mean that that is the end of it, right?
True.
So you have to play around with introducing them to different type of sports or dance or singing or whatever it is, right? And then slowly figure what's working for them, and then they can kind of pursue it at age 10, age 12, age 13. There's no like pursue something at age 6 really. And if you do one thing over and over again a bit much, that's when boredom is definitely going to set. And it's something that my husband and I were discussing that we won't do for Yona. We're going to allow her to go dance. We're going to, allow her to do a sport that she's probably going to enjoy. Do gymnastics if she enjoys, like 2, 3 different things. And then we'll slowly watch and try to listen. And if she says today I don't feel like going for this class, and if you can't convince her to go for it, I think there's no point in just dragging her in there, because the first time you dragged her in there, you're going to repeat it the second and the third time.
True.
And then it's going to make her build a bad relationship with that in more than that sport, it's that time of the day, right? Oh my God, it's 4 p.m. and mama is going to take me for this class, which I don't like. So then they start like, okay, what do I do? How do I do? They get antsy about it. So if we can convince them by saying, you know what, okay, you don't feel like going for this class and you want to skip it, let's do something else. But next week you have to go for it, okay? Something like that. So maybe we can't always listen to everything. And I always also look at how my parents, worked with us with different things back in the day. There were rights and wrongs, of course. But I think sometimes, especially today's parents, overthink. Okay,
True.
they overthink, and sometimes overthinking messes it up. So take it easy. We all, despite our situations and conditions and how we were raised, we grew up fine. And despite the limited education we all got, we grew up fine. We turned out fine. So I'm just saying that don't get too caught up and anal about how your child is, kind of reacting to certain things, and don't be hard on yourself or on your child for it. Just try to understand what they want more.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
some great insight. And it really is all about being present and with your child and understanding the relationship goes both ways. So that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for sharing that with us. And lastly, my question is that what are the things that you're surprised with that Fiona understands at the age of 3 when it comes to health and well being at this age?
So she actually doesn't understand the word health right now. Uh, I mean, we don't even use that with her. I often just say that this is good for you. This is good for your body. This will, give you more energy to do everything you need. This will make you strong like mama and papa. So those kind of words which she understands is what I try to speak. I think something, the fact that maybe it's too soon to say or speak. My pediatrician keeps making fun of me and my husband, because every time he gives her a candy when she goes for her vaccination, um, I try to kind of say no, but my little one will reach out to that candy because she knows now that he's going to give one. She doesn't eat it for a long time. She holds it in her hand and she waits for some moment. I don't know what that moment is. Uh, but he keeps laughing at me, saying, I want to see how long we're going to go on like this, where you're going to just keep her away from it. But and I felt like maybe he could be right after the first year and the second year. But now she's going to turn 3 in a few weeks. And today she speaks well, she understands a lot. Of course, tantrums are there. But last evening, for some reason, I gave her a chocolate, okay? And this is because, a cousin sent a bunch of chocolates. I just gave her one. And I told her, I said, don't eat it now as much as you probably feel like eating or you're excited about it. It'll be nice if you can just keep it in your bag and eat it tomorrow. And she did just that, right? I'm not sure how she understood that, yeah, that's probably the right thing. Or she probably didn't even understand that that's the right thing. Maybe she wasn't in the mood to eat it. Who knows, right? But I feel like somewhere she understands. When we were out for a holiday in Japan and she got introduced to pizza for the first time. She ate a certain cake and so on and so forth. And we were all big groups of people and we were doing different things and we couldn't hide it from her, right? So I was like, you know what, when we come back home, I think I'm going to have a hard time changing all her habits and schedule and etc. But all it took me was 1 week. So I feel like what I've done in the last 3 years with her food habits are now showing results, and she's automatically looking for fruit juices and nuts and that kind of food more than looking for candies and wafers and things like that. And for me, honestly, it's actually that's a huge win and a success. I
Absolutely.
speak to other parents, yeah, and they ask me about the screen time. They ask me about, you give her chocolate only on the weekend, like you give her cake only for a birthday. And I'm like, yeah, why are we making it such a big deal? And some of them are happy about it, some of them are very surprised. But yeah, and I feel like if those habits can be built right at the foundation level, it can become strong habits that will stay. I
True.
can see at age 3, she's managing fine when she has a chocolate in front of her and not going crazy about opening it and eating it. And I feel like that's a win for me for now.
Absolutely. And from what I see you posting constantly, it's a beautiful learning to understand. Like, even adults don't understand it right now, that we
Yeah.
eat so mindlessly that we don't even check with ourselves that do we really want this right now? Are we just bored or are we thirsty? Like we just go for that, right? And for a 3-year-old to understand this and you constantly post, you should keep posting. And I'm sure that a lot of people will definitely learn
Yeah,
that constantly. But it's a beautiful thing to learn from a 3-year-old, and that she understands this at this age, and you're doing an amazing
true.
job with Yuna. So it's beautiful to watch you and your daughter.
That's so sweet, actually. Thanks so much. I know, like, I'm probably not doing a lot of other things which maybe other moms do, but uh, because we're here and there and we're not always with her. I'm not always with her. Her father's always with her. So that way I have some mom guilt for not always being around. But the mornings especially, like there have been times a lot of moms have asked me, how do you leave her in the morning and go? I said, I'm able to leave her in the morning because my husband wakes her up, he gives her a bath, he changes her into the right clothes for the school. He then ensures she's fed breakfast, because he sits with her. We have a help who'll make the breakfast, but she'd love for one of us to be around when she eats, and he does that. And then once she's done, helps her pack her bag, takes her to school, drops her, and comes back. And all this, most often, I'm not there in the morning because I'm at the gym and stuff like that. And I personally did not want to compromise on that time because that was how I start my day. And it's very important for me, even before Yona, now, with Yona, I want to keep the same routine. And I just tell everybody that that's the most important part. Like you need to know that you're doing this for you and don't feel guilty about some of these actions. And she's going to also eventually learn that there are some things which are so important for you. You just have to do it, whether, the other person likes it or not. If it's good for you, if it's going to benefit you, you have to do it. Right. And that's what I keep telling her. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not here, but I have to go to the gym. I have to be healthy. I have to be strong so that I'm here for you for longer. Yeah,
Absolutely, and I can see how non negotiable your morning routine is and how powerful it makes you feel as well every day, right? So it's
yeah.
really amazing to watch. So that was it for today's episode, and thank you so much, Shwetambari ma'am, for being here. And for the ones who'd like to reach out to you, the links are in the description below. Definitely go and probably register for one of your dance fitness sessions in the coming months, whichever that you're going to next, and also to
Yeah,
learn a lot more about the interesting things you're doing with parenting with Yuna. So it's really good to have you here
yeah.
today.
Parenting, I don't know, but at least food and fitness, yes.
You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos. And oh, hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?